The SOS was not meant for humans. It was sent as a final whisper into the dark, a last breath from a dying world. But the wrong species heard it, and the galaxy would regret that mistake. The planet Kalaris burned beneath a broken sky. Vast cities of crystalline steel collapsed as orbital fire rained down without mercy. Oceans boiled near the equator. Entire continents vanished under shockwaves that cracked the planet's crust. The invaders did not rush. They never did. They hunted slowly, carefully, enjoying every second. High above the chaos, Station Virex drifted in silence. It was the last functioning command outpost of the Kelleran Union. Inside, alarms screamed and lights flickered as systems failed one by one. Commander Talaris stood at the center of the command ring, his 4 eyes fixed on the tactical display. Red markers filled the screen, enemy ships, thousands of them. The Dravik Dominion had come in full force. "They've breached the inner defense grid," an officer said, voice shaking. "Planetary shields at 9%. 9% meant nothing. Everyone in the room knew it. Kellerans were not fighters. They were thinkers. Engineers. Diplomats. Their civilization had survived for millennia by avoiding war, by believing reason could overcome violence. That belief was dying along with their world. "Any response from the Compact?" Talaris asked. The communications officer didn't answer immediately. Her mandibles trembled before she spoke. "No response, Commander. All priority channels are silent." Silent. Again. The Galactic Compact had promised protection. Peacekeeping fleets. Mutual defense. Fine words written in clean halls far from real danger. When the Dravik arrived, those promises vanished like smoke. Another explosion rocked the station. Gravity fluctuated. Somewhere far below, millions died in a single instant. Talaris closed his eyes. He had known this moment would come. "There is one option left," he said quietly. The room froze. The officers turned toward him slowly, fear spreading across their faces. "You mean, that option?" someone whispered. Talaris nodded. At the far end of the chamber stood an old console, sealed behind layered authorization locks. It had not been activated in over 3 centuries. Most citizens believed it was a myth, a relic from a darker time. The Deathworld channel. It was created long ago, after first contact with a species so dangerous that the galaxy agreed on one thing: keep them isolated. "Humans. They're monsters," an officer said. "You know the stories." "I know the facts," Talaris replied. "Humans have never attacked the Compact. They've never invaded anyone. They were isolated because they survived things we couldn't." The Dravik ships fired again. Another continent disappeared from the map. "We're out of time," Talaris said. "Activate it." Silence followed. Then, slowly, one officer stepped forward. "I'll do it." The console came alive with a low hum, ancient systems awakening. Coordinates locked. Power surged. The screen displayed a single question. "Confirm emergency transmission to Deathworld species. Humanity." Talaris took a breath. "Send it." The message was short. Honest. Desperate. SOS. Kalaris under extinction attack. Dravik Dominion engaged in genocide. All Compact aid failed. We ask anyone for help. The signal leapt into hyperspace, tearing through distance faster than light itself. It crossed regions of space no Kelleran ship had ever entered. It passed forgotten stars and ancient wreckage. 18 hours later, it reached a system the galaxy pretended did not exist. Sol. On the third planet, orbiting a yellow star, the message was received by an automated defense relay. It was flagged instantly: highest priority, external distress, forbidden frequency. Within 60 seconds, it reached Earth. Admiral Marcus Hale was in the middle of a strategy briefing when his implant chimed. He glanced at the data stream and froze. The room noticed. "Sir?" an officer asked. Hale raised his hand slowly, eyes scanning the message again and again. His jaw tightened. "They finally called us," he said. "Who did, sir?" The galaxy. The room erupted in questions, but Hale silenced them with a single gesture. For 300 years, he said, they locked us away. Labeled us dangerous. Refused alliance. Refused cooperation. He looked up, eyes cold and focused. And now they're dying. A younger officer hesitated. Are we allowed to respond? Hale smiled faintly. They used the Deathworld channel. That smile vanished. That means there are no more rules. Across Earth, dormant systems awakened. Shipyards that had never been shown to outsiders opened their gates. Massive hulls, black, angular, scarred with old battle marks, slid into space. Human dreadnoughts. Not peacekeepers. Not diplomats. Guardians. Back on Kalaris, Commander Talaris watched the sky collapse. Enemy landing forces descended like a swarm. His people were screaming across open channels. Entire cities were gone. He did not know if anyone would answer. Then the stars shifted. Space itself seemed to tear open above the planet. White light flooded the sky, brighter than the sun. Dravok ships began to vanish, not explode, but disappear, erased mid-flight. 3 massive shapes emerged from the light. Human warships. The largest transmitted a single message across every frequency. This is the United Earth Fleet. We heard your call. The Dravok had hunted many worlds. They had never hunted humans. And now, humanity had arrived. The Dravok Armada hesitated. For the first time since they had entered the Kalaris system, the hunters stopped moving. Their ships had been bred for war, living metal hulls layered with adaptive armor, weapons grown rather than built. They had devoured dozens of civilizations. They feared nothing. But the 3 human warships did not behave like prey. They did not rush. They did not scatter. They arrived, and waited. The lead vessel hung in orbit like a dark mountain. Its surface was scarred, not polished. Thick armor plates overlapped in brutal geometry. Hundreds of weapon ports tracked targets silently, adjusting with mechanical patience. No threat displays. No warnings beyond the first message. Just presence. Commander Vrax of the Dravok Dominion stared at the sensor feed, mandibles clicking in agitation. The human ships were dense beyond reason. Their mass readings made no sense. No known species built vessels this heavy and still expected them to move. What are they? Vrax hissed. Unknown, replied a sensor node. Power output, increasing. That was when the humans spoke again. This system is now under human protection, the voice said calmly. Withdraw immediately. The Dravok answered with instinct. They fired. Plasma lances screamed through space, bright enough to blind sensors. Dozens of warheads converged on the nearest human dreadnought. They hit. The explosions washed across the hull in a storm of fire and radiation. When the light faded, the ship was still there. No breach. No drift. Not even a course correction. Inside the human flagship, Admiral Marcus Hale watched the impacts register as minor fluctuations on his display. Return fire, he said softly. The dreadnought did not unleash chaos. It chose precision. A single forward cannon rotated into position. Space bent around its barrel as gravity fields compressed into a focused line. For 3 seconds, nothing happened. Then the weapon fired. The beam did not explode. It unmade. One Dravok carrier vanished, not destroyed, not shattered, simply erased from existence, its atoms scattered into nothingness. Shock rippled through the enemy formation. Dravok ships veered wildly, breaking formation for the first time in centuries. Another human ship fired. Then another. Each shot was deliberate. Controlled. Terrifying. Within 30 seconds, a third of the Dravok fleet was gone. On Kalaris, Commander Talaris collapsed into a chair, his limbs trembling. The sky above his dying world was no longer filled with enemy fire. It was filled with defense. They're protecting us, an officer whispered. Talaris stared at the feed. Humans had not landed troops. They had not demanded control. They were shielding population centers, intercepting weapons aimed at civilian zones. They were fighting like guardians. The Dravok recovered quickly. They always did. New signals burst from their command ships. Smaller hunter vessels surged forward, swarming toward the human dreadnoughts from multiple angles. Boarding organisms launched, living torpedoes designed to tear into hulls and flood enemy ships with bio-warriors. The humans responded differently. Point defense grids activated. Thousands of microturrets awakened, tracking at speeds no organic mind could match. Space around the dreadnoughts became lethal. Boarding pods were shredded before they reached half the distance. Then something unexpected happened. Human ships advanced. Slowly, deliberately. The massive dreadnoughts moved closer to Kalaris, placing themselves between the planet and the remaining Dravok forces. Enemy fire intensified, but it barely slowed them. Inside the flagship, Hale watched casualty projections scroll across his screen. Civilian survival rate increasing, an analyst reported. Orbital bombardment reduced by 70%. Hale nodded once. That's enough, he said. A new order rippled through the fleet. Human strategy shifted. The dreadnoughts stopped firing. Instead, smaller vessels detached from their hulls, hundreds of them. Sleek, fast, and heavily armed, they moved like predators released from a leash. They didn't charge blindly. They hunted command ships first. Dravok coordination collapsed within minutes. Without centralized control, the hunters turned into chaos. Some tried to flee. Others attacked blindly. Human ships gave them no escape. On Kalaris, the ground trembled as enemy landers suddenly lost support. Dravok forces on the surface were cut off. Supply drops vanished mid-descent. Air superiority shifted entirely. For the first time since the invasion began, the screams of Kalaris were joined by something else. Cheers. Commander Talaris stood, his mind racing. He activated an open channel to the human flagship, unsure if it would even be answered. "This is Commander Talaris of Kalaris," he said. We did not expect." The response came instantly. "You asked for help," Hale replied. "We came." There was no pride in his voice. No demand. Just fact. "You could have ignored us," Talaris said. "The Compact, we isolated you." "We remember," Hale answered. "That's why we know what happens when no one comes." The Dravok made one final attempt. A massive war organism, larger than any ship before it, emerged from behind the planet's moon. It pulsed with internal energy, weapons charging beyond safe limits. A last gamble. Human sensors caught it instantly. Hale studied the data. "They're trying to break the shield line." "Recommendation?" an officer asked. Hale's eyes hardened. "End it." The flagship's main spinal weapon aligned. This time, the shot was visible. A column of light brighter than a newborn star lanced across space, striking the Dravok behemoth dead center. The creature did not explode. It collapsed. Its structure failed in silence, folding inward until gravity crushed it into a shrinking sphere, then nothing. The Dravok armada broke. Surviving ships fled the system in disorder, leaving behind wreckage and silence. Above Kalaris, human ships held position. They did not pursue. They stayed. On the planet below, fires still burned. Cities were damaged beyond repair. Billions were dead. But billions more were alive. Commander Talaris looked up at the sky and felt something he had never felt before. Safety. Inside the human flagship, Hale finally allowed himself to breathe. "Open humanitarian channels," he ordered. "Medical teams first. Engineering after." An officer hesitated. "Sir, this will change how the galaxy sees us." Hale nodded. "Good," he said. "They should." Far beyond Kalaris, across the stars, sensors lit up as other species watched in stunned silence. They had feared humanity for centuries. Now they were watching humans save a world no one else would. And the message was clear. When humanity answers a call for help, they do not come as monsters. They come as something far more dangerous. Protectors. The fires on Kalaris did not stop when the Dravok fled. They smoldered in silence, burning through cities, forests, and memory. Human ships remained in orbit, their dark shapes steady against the wounded sky. For the first time in days, no enemy fire fell, but peace did not come easily. Human shuttles descended through the atmosphere in controlled waves. They were not elegant. They were built to survive heat, debris, and hostile environments. Many of them landed directly in ruins where no other species would risk touching down. Kelleran civilians watched from shelters and shattered buildings as armored figures emerged. Humans were larger than most species, heavy with muscle and dense bone. Their suits were scarred, practical, and clearly made for war, yet their movements were careful. Gentle. A Kelleran child cried when she saw them. Her mother pulled her close, fear written across her face. "They're here to help," a human medic said softly, lowering himself to one knee to appear smaller. His helmet retracted, revealing a tired human face. "You're safe now." The words spread quickly. Safe. It felt unreal. Commander Talaris coordinated relief efforts from what remained of Station Virex. Human engineers stabilized orbital infrastructure in hours, work that would have taken Kelleran teams weeks. They rerouted power, sealed atmospheric breaches, and restored basic communications with brutal efficiency. Yet something else spread alongside relief. Unease. The Galactic Compact was silent. No congratulations. No apologies. No acknowledgement at all. Far away, in halls of crystal and light, leaders watched the recordings again and again. Human dreadnoughts erasing a Dravok fleet. Humans ignoring compact authority. Humans acting without permission. Fear returned, stronger than before. On Earth, emergency councils met without sleep. Humanity had crossed a line that could never be erased. Admiral Hale stood before the United Earth Assembly, a room carved deep beneath the planet's surface. Every screen showed Kalaris, the damage, the survivors, the human ships still guarding the system. "They called us monsters," one counselor said. "Now they fear we're heroes." Hale folded his hands behind his back. "We didn't go there to prove anything." "No," another replied. "But we did." The Compact transmitted a message at last. It was cold. Formal. Legal. Human intervention was unauthorized. Withdraw immediately. Further actions will be considered hostile. The message was broadcast openly, for the entire galaxy to see. On Kalaris, Commander Talaris received the transmission in stunned silence. Humans had saved his world, and now the galaxy was threatening them for it. He opened a channel to Admiral Hale. "They want you gone," Talaris said. "If you leave, the Dravok will return." Hale looked at the planet behind him, still burning. "We know," he said. Silence stretched between them. "Why did you really come?" Talaris asked quietly. "After everything, why answer us?" Hale did not reply immediately. "Because once," he said, "humans screamed into the dark too. And no one answered." The Compact did not wait. A peacekeeping fleet arrived at the edge of the system, dozens of sleek ships, shining and pristine. They positioned themselves carefully, just far enough to avoid human weapon ranges. They sent one final message. Withdraw or be declared a galactic threat. Human ships did not move. Kelleran citizens watched the sky in growing terror. Their saviors were about to become targets. Hale made his decision. "Transmit response," he ordered. The message went out on all frequencies, clear and calm. "We will not withdraw. This planet is under human protection until its people can protect themselves." Gasps rippled across monitoring stations throughout the galaxy. This had never happened before. A single species defying the Compact openly. The peacekeeping fleet hesitated. They were not built to fight humans. Not really. They were built to intimidate smaller species. To enforce rules written in safe rooms. Hale knew this. He also knew something else. Fear spreads faster than war. Across dozens of worlds, footage from Kalaris went viral. Civilians saw humans shielding cities. Human medics carrying alien children. Human engineers rebuilding infrastructure without demanding control. Questions began to rise. If humans were monsters, why did they stay? A fracture appeared. 2 compact ships broke formation and powered down their weapons. Then another. Then 5 more. Their captains refused orders. The peacekeeping commander panicked. Threats were issued. Courts were promised. But the moment was lost. The galaxy had seen the truth. Humans were not conquerors. They were guardians who chose when to fight. Back on Kalaris, Talaris stood beside human soldiers as the first relief domes activated. Clean air flowed into shattered districts. Emergency lights illuminated survivors emerging from hiding. A human engineer wiped sweat from his brow. We'll need years to fix this. Talaris nodded. We have years now. For the first time since the invasion, the sky felt quiet. Human dreadnoughts held orbit, unmoving. Not threatening. Not retreating. Waiting. Across the stars, species that had once voted to isolate Earth reconsidered old fears. They had built walls around humanity because they were afraid of what humans might do. Now they feared what humans might do if they were ignored again. And somewhere deep in space, surviving Dravok commanders watched the recordings in silence. They had hunted Deathworlds before. They would never hunt a human-protected world again. Because now the galaxy understood something new. Humanity did not need permission to act. They needed a reason. And once given, they would never turn away. The silence after defiance was heavier than battle. Human ships remained in orbit over Kalaris, engines idling, weapons powered but unfired. The peacekeeping fleet held its distance, unsure, afraid to be the first to make a mistake that could reshape history. Across the galaxy, something rare was happening. People were thinking. On worlds that had never known war, citizens gathered around public displays. They watched humans rebuild alien cities. They listened to survivors speak of human medics who worked until they collapsed from exhaustion, then stood up and kept going. They saw human soldiers standing guard without demanding tribute, territory, or obedience. The story the Compact had told for 3 centuries was cracking. Inside the Compact's central council chamber, panic replaced confidence. Elders shouted over one another. Diplomatic advisors begged for calm. Military leaders quietly ran simulations they did not like the results of. They are undermining our authority, one elder snapped. If we allow this, every protected species will start calling humans instead of us. Another voice replied, trembling, because we didn't come. That truth landed hard. The Compact had failed Kalaris. Humanity had not. Fear won the argument. A secret vote was cast. A single word defined the outcome. Contain. The order went out quietly, masked as a stability operation. A coalition strike group assembled, not peacekeepers this time, but warships pulled from Compact member worlds. Advanced. Well-armed. Built specifically with one goal in mind. Force humanity back into isolation. The fleet jumped toward Kalaris. Human sensors detected them minutes later. Admiral Hale studied the incoming data, his expression unreadable. The ships approaching were not Dravok. These were Compact designs. Familiar. Once considered allies in theory, if not in trust. They're serious, an officer said. This isn't intimidation. Hale nodded. No. This is fear. On Kalaris, Commander Talaris felt it too. He stood in a rebuilt observation tower, watching the sky darken with new arrivals. Human ships repositioned instantly, forming a defensive shell around the planet. They're coming for you, Talaris said over a secure channel. Hale answered calmly. We know. If you fight them, Talaris said, the galaxy will call you conquerors. If we leave, Hale replied, you die. A pause. We stay, Hale said. The Compact fleet sent one final message. Withdraw all human assets or be engaged. Humanity answered with silence. Then the Compact fired. The first strike was surgical, long-range kinetic rounds aimed at disabling human shields, avoiding civilian zones to maintain the illusion of justice. They underestimated human defenses. Human shields did not flare. They absorbed. Hale raised his hand. "Do not return fire yet," he ordered. Compact ships advanced, emboldened. More shots followed. Human hulls took damage, armor scoring under sustained bombardment. Still, the humans did not respond. Across the galaxy, millions watched live feeds, breath held. Why weren't the humans fighting back? Inside the flagship, Hale watched casualty reports climb. Engineers worked furiously to reinforce stress points. Medical teams prepared for the worst. Finally, Hale spoke. "Broadcast this," he said. A message went out on every channel. "We will not fight you, but we will not abandon them." The Compact Fleet commander hesitated. This was not the response he expected. Then came the next order from the Council. "Escalate." Energy signatures spiked. Weapons charged beyond safe limits. Hale closed his eyes once. "Very well," he said. "Minimal force. Defensive only." Human ships moved. Not forward. Up. They shifted formation, altering gravity fields around Kalaris itself. The planet's weakened shields merged with human systems, creating a protective envelope no compact weapon could penetrate without risking planetary destruction. The Compact fired anyway. Their shots bent, curved, dispersed harmlessly into space. Confusion spread through their ranks. Human ships responded, not with annihilation, but with control. Electronic warfare flooded Compact systems. Navigation failed. Weapons locked. Engines stalled mid-burn. Entire ships drifted powerless, alive but helpless. Not a single Compact vessel was destroyed. The message was unmistakable. "We could end you. We choose not to." On Kalaris, citizens watched enemy ships freeze in the sky like statues. Fear turned into awe. Talaris felt tears rise again. "They're not fighting to win," he whispered. "They're fighting to stop the fight." The Compact Fleet retreated in humiliation, towing disabled ships behind them. No cheers followed. No celebration. Only realization. Humanity had drawn a line, not in blood, but in principle. Back on Earth, Hale addressed the assembly again. "We did not seek this role," he said. "But we will not ignore suffering because it is inconvenient." The assembly was silent. "You isolated us because you feared what we might become," Hale continued. "Now you fear what we already are." He leaned forward. "Get used to it." Across the galaxy, something irreversible happened. Species began to talk openly about human protection treaties. Independent worlds quietly requested human advisors. Trade routes shifted. Power realigned. The Compact still existed, but it was no longer unquestioned. On Kalaris, reconstruction accelerated. Human and Kellerin teams worked side by side. New cities rose where ashes once fell. Children laughed under human-built skies. Commander Talaris stood with Hale during a quiet moment, watching a sunrise that almost hadn't happened. "You've changed everything," Talaris said. Hale shook his head. "No. We just answered a call." Far away, in the darkness between stars, something ancient listened. Something that had watched the Dravok fall. Something that saw the Compact bend. Something that understood, at last, where true power now lived. And it was afraid. The galaxy did not sleep after Kalaris. It watched. Every sensor array, every listening post, every hidden observer focused on one truth that could no longer be denied. Humanity had not just saved a world. Humanity had changed the rules. On Kalaris, the air smelled clean again. Human atmospheric processors worked beside Kellerin biotowers, healing the sky layer by layer. Oceans cooled. Radiation levels dropped. Life returned where extinction had been certain. Commander Talaris walked through a rebuilt district where children played among newly grown trees. Human soldiers stood nearby, helmets off, laughing softly as Kellerin artists painted murals on reinforced walls. No flags were raised. No claims were made. Just presence. Admiral Hale watched the scene from orbit, hands clasped behind his back. He knew better than to believe the danger had passed. The Compact was wounded, not dead. And wounds made powerful institutions desperate. The warning came without drama. Long-range sensors detected a mass movement beyond known trade space. Not Compact. Not Dravok. Something older. Heavier. Patient. Human analysts exchanged uneasy looks. This isn't retaliation, one said. This is observation. Hale nodded. They're measuring us. The truth spread quickly through human command. The galaxy had predators beyond predators, ancient powers that ruled through fear and distance. They tolerated the Compact because it kept order cheaply. Humanity had disrupted that balance. On Kalaris, Talaris received the briefing and felt his heart tighten. Will they attack? He asked. Hale answered honestly. Eventually. Then why stay? Talaris asked. You've already done more than anyone could ask. Hale looked down at the planet, at the people who would not exist without human intervention. Because if we leave now, he said, the message changes. The ancient fleet arrived days later. They did not fire. They did not speak. They simply appeared, vast structures of impossible design, older than most civilizations' recorded history. Their ships bent space around them. Their presence pressed on minds, triggering instinctive fear across dozens of species. A transmission finally came. Not words. Intent. A question. Why do you interfere? Human systems struggled to translate it. Meaning layered over meaning. Curiosity tangled with warning. Hale stepped forward. Send response, he said. The translator hesitated. Sir, they're not asking for explanation. They're asking for submission. Hale nodded once. Then send it anyway. The human reply was simple. Because someone asked for help. Silence followed. Long, heavy. The kind that tested resolve. Then the ancient presence shifted. Not closer. Not farther. Different. A new question formed. Will you do this again? Hale did not consult the assembly. He did not check projections. Yes, he answered. Across the galaxy, sensors flared. Energy surged. For one terrifying moment, many believed annihilation was coming. Instead, the ancient fleet withdrew. No threats. No conditions. Only one final echo carried across the stars. Then the galaxy must change. And it did. The Compact reformed under pressure it could no longer resist. Protection was no longer promised. It was proven. Worlds gained the right to call for help without political permission. Human advisors were invited, not feared. Treaties replaced isolation. Humanity did not rule. Humanity anchored. On Kalaris, a monument was raised near the capital ruins. It was not shaped like a weapon or a hero. It was a simple signal beacon, carved from stone and steel. Its inscription read, "To those who answered when no one else did." Commander Talaris stood beside Admiral Hale during the unveiling. "You'll leave someday," Talaris said. "Yes," Hale replied. "But not alone." Human ships slowly reduced their presence, leaving behind infrastructure, knowledge, and trust. Kalaris rebuilt stronger, wiser, no longer naive, but no longer alone. Years later, across the galaxy, new distress calls were sent. Some to the Compact, some to neighbors, and some, when all hope was gone, to a certain frequency known everywhere now. The Deathworld channel. And every time it activated, every time a desperate voice broke into the void, the same thing happened. Human ships moved. Not because they were ordered. Not because they were paid. But because humanity remembered what it felt like to scream into the dark. And when the galaxy asked what humans truly were, monsters, conquerors, or guardians, the answer echoed back through space, written in action instead of words. Humanity was not the strongest. Not the oldest. Not the most advanced. But when everything else failed, they came. And that was enough.